Hi everyone, and welcome to my studio. It's Diane here, and it's a lovely sunny day today. Hoorah! Finally spring has arrived, which made me think of hyacinths. I don't know about you, but when I was a child, one of the things that we used to grow every winter, set them up in pots and wait for them to bloom in the spring, was beautiful hyacinths. And perhaps they're not very fashionable nowadays, but you're still seeing them around all over the place. And so I thought we would have a go at doing some pink and blue hyacinths today. This is the sketches I've been scribbling on and working on this morning. And so I've been trying out some colours, and I've sort of settled on doing one in cobalt blue and one in potter's pink. And then we'll need some olive green for the leaves probably, although I might not do very much in the way of leaves. And depending on how it comes out, I'll obviously going to put a shadow behind it, and I'm not sure what colour that shadow will be yet. So I'm just going to squeeze out a little bit more of these colours into my little dishes here before we get started. I prefer to use paint from the tube if I can. Sometimes you can't buy the tube, so you end up with a palette, with a, what do you call them, a pan. In a set like this, which is also fine, but there's just a little bit more freedom I find with paints in the little trays, because I can mix them up where they are. If you're using a pan, you've got to use a palette to mix on, so that's fine, because usually there's a palette attached to the paint, so you kind of you dip in and then you go straight to the palette like that, and then you're going to pick up another color to make your blend, and then you go ahead and paint, which is fine. I like doing that too, but sometimes I prefer to be able to just have it all in my dish, and I just drag a little bit away from the reservoir there, and I can just go from there, dip down into my cobalt blue, for example, and just blend it separate. That's the point. It's separate from all the other colors in the tin. So I don't know if I've kind of made that clear, but if you tried comparing the two methods, you might, well, then for sure you would understand if you don't quite get it. What I'm trying to say, I don't know. I think I better have a swig of coffee. What do you think? Maybe that's better. Right, okay, so put that out of the way. I can still see that where that is over there. Now, there's been a lot of enthusiasm about the line drawings that we've been doing and colouring them in and so on. So I'm thinking I will go with that concept today too. But first of all, we need to look at how we draw a hyacinth. And yes, drawing flowers is perhaps not my most favourite thing to do, because they can be a little bit pernickety, and I'm not a botanical drawing person. So hang on a second, I just want to show you. They have 6 petals, and they come out from the center, and they bend like that. And so they look pretty ugly when you draw them. So you have a center, and then these 6 petals which come out bending, and it's really hard to draw something bending. It's not something I am going to spend a lot of time doing. So I thought that I would instead basically put the colour in and then just put some of the flowers in. What do you think? I don't know. Let's see how it goes. So everyone's always saying they want to loosen up. So let's loosen up. Here we have a pink hyacinth. And here, you know how they always fall over? I quite like that idea. They fall over, don't they? They tend to do that. Not sure how this is going to work out. So that's the pink one. Maybe maybe Mrs. Pink wants a little bit of rose blended in with her, perhaps. The Potters Pink has this incredible granulating process going on. You can see all those little dots and dashes happening there. And, oops, oh, that's interesting. Okay, and then let's just draw the stems. And shall we put the leaves are wide, aren't they? They come from the base. What I like about watercolour is that when you start to paint and you think, what have I done? This is rubbish. And sometimes it is, but you have to go with it. And then something I'm a little bit more confident about painting is a bee. So what do you think about the idea of having a bee over here? I know they have 6 legs, but I don't know that you really want to draw all 6 of them. So there's a bee. I'm going to ink him in. And then paint, yes. Let's do him in Quinacridone Gold. Black, yellow, black, yellow. Black, black. There we are. One little bee. He will probably blur a bit, but then we can always come back in with a bit more black to sharpen that up. So let's have a look at the flowers. What do we think? A little bit more rosy colour, perhaps. I don't want to even attempt detail. And I'm not sure whether I want to put ink on top of that or not. So I'm going to let that dry and we'll see what happens then. Because it may be that it's enough just to have the bee inked in. So let's let that settle for a few minutes and come back to it shortly. Okay, so it's dry now. I just wanted to say at this point that I need to remind myself sometimes that these are tutorials, and I know that you all know that, and so it's not supposed to be an opportunity for me to show off how wonderful at painting I am, is it? So I'm going to talk about what we could do here, and I might go ahead and do something, and it might turn out that it's not really very successful, because when you're doing your own painting, of course, you experiment, don't you? And to be honest, I'm quite happy with this minimalist painting the way it is now. I quite like that. And I'm tossing up as to whether or not to leave that the way it is, do another one and take it further, or whether to just call it a day and say that's it. But things that I could do at this point, right? So this is where the tutorial bit comes in. I could take my Staedtler pen and indicate some shape to some of the florets on these flowers in the way I showed you at the beginning. I could, in other words, ink in some of the petals. I could also ink in the outlines to some of the leaves. I could put in more leaves on the outside and complicate the background a little bit with extra leaves in ink that weren't even coloured in. That's one option. I could take a wash and put a background in a complementary colour, for example violet or yellow, and that could work really well. A soft yellow behind here could look really nice, especially with the bee coming in. I could put a shadow on the bottom here where the flowers would be casting a shadow underneath them, which would give them much more stability in the painting. And for that, if I did that, I would probably use darker shade of this, or green, darker green, or even violet or purple. That would give a completely different effect. I could use spatter. I could use toothbrush spatter. I could use brush spatter to kind of link the whole thing to the background. I could put some sky in behind in watercolor wash, and I could even put a support, a table, or some kind of indication of a pot coming out of the picture here. I could do any or all of those things. And thing is though, once you start to do those things, you can't go back, obviously. If you start a background, you've got to finish it. And this morning, I'm looking at this, and today, just today, I feel in a minimalist mood, and I'm happy with what I've done so far. I've got some details, not exactly details, but indications of little individual florets there, which have risen up out of the paint itself without any help from me really. And the blue one is quite nice and soft. I'm quite happy with the bee. I'm going to just touch up his black a little bit, I think, maybe, just to kind of sharpen him up a little bit, but not much. Oh yes, and the other thing I was going to say that you could do, we were talking about using ink to sharpen this up if we wanted to. You could also use colour pencils to indicate some of the flowers. So that would be another way to go. So that's the way that stands. I'm going to stop that here right now and say I'm going to call that done. I would really love to see your work on this project. I would love to see you to start with a really loose thing like this and then see how you feel about it. Do you want to tighten it up, or do you want to just leave it really loose and minimalistic? Everybody talks about learning to paint loose. Well, if you're going to learn to paint loose, then you need to paint loose. It's no good trying to draw an outline and then fill it in loosely. That isn't what happens. The next tutorial, following on from this one, is going to be really loose. So look forward to that. Tomorrow we're going to see another way of being really loose that will involve ink, watercolour and flowers. So hopefully you'll all be here to join me in that effort tomorrow. So I'll say bye for now, time for lunch, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye everyone. Bye.